I think they're going to upset. I think they're going to upset Tampa Thursday night. Well, short week on the road after 2 emotional games for Tampa. I've looked at that schedule, so I'm just throwing that out there. They're going to upset Tampa.
Yeah.
On a countdown to Tampa edition of Birds 365, we appreciate you tuning in, and we appreciate our next guest joining us. He is the sideline reporter for the Eagles on their radio network, and you catch him every Saturday morning on WIP, and he's on WIP shows basically all day long. Every time you turn around, Howard's a guest on somebody's show. Well, he's a guest with us now here on Birds 365. Howard Eskin jumps aboard with us. How are you, Howard?
I've never had a bad day in my life. Good morning.
I also knew that one was coming. All right, first question. This has got to be mine because I really need the answer to this. Yesterday we had Jeffrey Knox of Eagles Insider on with us, and he referred to both John and myself as sir. And I felt very uncomfortable with that. I kept turning around to see if he was talking to someone else. So I just would like to know, would you like me to call you sir, Howard, Mr. Eskin, the King, or Spike Eskin's dad? I'll call you whatever you want. Just let me know ahead of time so I can get it right.
Well, forget about the Spike Eskin's dad because I didn't name him Spike. He named himself Spike. So that's that.
Okay.
Right? Mr. Eskin is too formal. The King is okay, but Howard is just fine. How's that?
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
And Spike is no longer, Spike Howard is no longer Jody's boss. So,
yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's still my boss.
Oh, that's right. FAN. I take that back. So he's got to be. Yeah.
CBS radio,
so obviously, but let's go with King. The King is in the house. So Howard, obviously, everyone looked at your report with Zach Ertz, and we know this whole narrative throughout the offseason has been that Zach is not going to be here. I think it was self-evident. Zach basically said goodbye at the end of last season and is very emotional about it. But Howie has been pretty steadfast that he wants value in return for Zach Ertz if he was going to move him. Hasn't been able to get that. I think the most important part of your report was that Zach is at the facility. He's been working out with his teammates. Where do you think Zach is mentally, and do you think he wants to play out his contract in Philadelphia?
I think mentally, the reason he came back is because mentally he's now okay. The past is the past. He's kind of accepted the fact that there really aren't teams out there that want to trade for him and give up what the Eagles want. First of all, it's difficult to trade whether you even getting a 6th or 7th round pick because you've got to take on his contract. The cap went down this year. There's not a lot of teams right now that need a tight end. And some teams, obviously, Buffalo was in the mix. I don't think Buffalo was really, or the reports were they were in the mix. I don't think they really were. Indianapolis, you would think, but they have a tight end as well. And they're not giving up a draft pick and taking on an $8+ million contract. So that's the reality of the situation. I think the most important thing when I was told that Zach was back in the facility is that he's back. He's accepted it. He's talked to veteran players. Those guys that were sitting out with him, some of them are still here after the last game. We remember they were sitting out on the field quite a while. One of those people was Jason Kelce, and I'm sure he's spoken quite often to Jason Kelce. And they welcome him back, and Zach's accepted that. I said in the report that there's a great chance that he would be here opening day. I think there's a good chance. I mean, I'm mincing words here, but if there's nobody out there that has an injury for a tight end, with a tight end, I don't think Zach gets traded. And with that, I think he's here to start the season. But the most important thing, I think, out of everything, back in the facility, he's been working out with the team. He will be there when they report on Tuesday. And he's accepted what's happened in the past. He's let the past move by. and obviously he feels comfortable around players that he's been with before. And personally, I think he's a great influence for younger players in the locker room. Now, is he going to be the starting tight end? No, not unless Dallas Goedert gets hurt. Dallas Goedert's your starting tight end. Will Nick Sirianni use 2 tight ends in his offense like Doug Peterson did a lot last year and the years before? I hear he may not. So I don't know how much Zach is going to play. Here's another thing to consider. Zach, I think, is 20 catches away from being the all-time Eagles receiver. And that makes I know that makes him feel good when he surpasses that, because he's supplanted. First of all, he's in Eagles history anyway, scoring the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But the reality is he will be in their history, and I don't know that anybody is going to pass that anymore with the way players move around and players get hurt. So that's something that I think he thought about and said, you know what, it'd be good, let all the bygones be bygones. He didn't get a contract they offered him. He's not going to get it now, and he's accepted playing here. And I think, John, you said it. It's it's going to be his last year in something, unless something crazy happens.
There's a couple things at play here, Howard. Certainly playing time. You mentioned he's going to be the number 2 tight end. We don't disagree with that. The fact that you say Nick Sirianni not looking to go to 12 personnel and 2 tight ends, I believe that that's his goal. But if Zach Ertz comes into camp and has the kind of form that he had previously, he may force his way onto the field. A lot of this comes down to timing. The Eagles would, I think, they'll still believe, be open to trading Zach Ertz, but want to get something exchanged. It's got to be a team that's willing to take on his salary that's on the contract right now. If this doesn't happen because of injury, if a spot doesn't open up with another team, would the Eagles think about still cutting Zach Ertz between now and the start of the season? If they do, what do you think they would earmark the money that they would save by cutting Zach Ertz for?
Well, let me take the back part of your question first. I don't think there's anybody to really earmark the money for right now. I mean, they need another corner probably, but if they wanted that, there's a couple of guys out there. If they wanted them, I think they would have already signed them. The asking price is probably too much, and those players are probably waiting for teams to have an injury as well to get more money. So I don't think they need the money now. They could during the season if things happen. And they need to go out and trade for a player and then fit him under their cap. But I don't think right now, because they don't need the money, that they would think, you'd like to have that money saved for your cap. But I think you go down the road. If he's going to be with him in camp, you're not going to cut him to start the season. I just don't think you're going to do that. And I think he would be here and be an Eagle. Hey, let's face reality. Number one, they're not going to the Super Bowl. Number 2, it's going to be very difficult for them to make the playoffs. Howie wants to get the fans back on his side. And this is a good, and Zach can probably still play. Not probably. He still can play a little bit. He's not the starter. So with all those things considered, if you had to make a run at the Super Bowl, I would say, do you want to keep that money or save it for somebody else? But they're not making a run at the Super Bowl. I mean, everybody that watches and covers the Eagles, it's exciting to have them make a run at the playoffs. But, there's teams, just maybe team that's better than them. I think the Cowboys will always choke. I think the Redskins are really good coach. They have a quarterback that's better than the garbage they had last year. And they have a great defense. So I don't know that the Eagles are going to be in a position to make a run, even in a bad division. So no, all things said, if there's nobody out there that suffers an injury and nobody feels like they need a tight end, I just don't see any. They're not going to trade him, and I don't see any reason that they would cut him. That's an opinion. The fact that he's here, I think, is a positive. And I think people are excited about that. I mean, Zach's a great guy. And he really, the one thing that I'll never forget, and John, you probably saw this too, and I've been covering the Eagles for a long time. And I've never seen the chemistry that the Eagles had in that locker room in that Super Bowl year. I've never seen it before, and I don't know that I'll ever see it again. And that's important for a football team. Now, is he going to turn this team around by chemistry? No. But he does. He will help. He will be a mentor like people were mentors to him. And I think that will be a positive for this football team, because they do have a lot of young players that just have to understand what it's all about. It's not that it's a tough game. It's not that easy. So I think that's a positive too.
Yeah, I don't think anybody questions Howard. Zach is going to be great in the locker room for these young players. I don't even think anybody blinks about that. I think that's why Howie thinks he can go down this road, because he knows Zach is going to be a professional. He even used the term, sometimes you got to be the bad cop. But I do want to revert. You mentioned the salary cap, and you're right. Eagles have a little under $5 million, I think, right now. They don't need it right now. But, as you mentioned, you've been covering this team for a long time. You can go back to the Joe Banner era. The history of the Eagles is they identify young players they want to extend early, and they get team-friendly deals done. One of those guys they want to get done is Dallas Goedert. If you do want to get an extension done with Dallas Goedert, because if he plays this year, Howard, and he's the player we think he's going to be, he could be the highest paid tight end in football. That's how this works. So the Eagles don't have that financial flexibility to get a team-friendly extension done with Dallas Goedert unless they do something with Zach Ertz. That's a little bit of a conundrum.
You know what? What I've seen the Eagles, and it's magic. I don't know how they do it sometimes, but they play around with the numbers, and they always seem to find a way, even when it's tight. And maybe you push the money into next year. When it opens up, you don't have Carson Wentz money there. You don't have a lot of things there that you have this year, which have caused a cap issue, or an issue meaning they don't have a lot of money. And next year, besides that, the cap goes up. So there's always a way to kind of sign him, but then push it. I'm not in there, and I don't play around with their numbers, and I don't know how they do it sometimes. But I think they can find a way. If they want to sign Dallas Goedert to a cap-friendly contract, and they can do it, they'll find a way. And Dallas Goedert's not going anywhere. So instead of getting X amount of dollars in a signing bonus now, you just push it to next year, and you find a way to put it down the line. I don't know how they do it, but I think they can find a way if that happens. I don't know what his numbers are going to be. I don't know that he'll surpass Kittle. He'll surpass Kelsey, even though the cap does go up next year, but they don't know what it is yet. I'm not worried that much about that. And Zach Ertz is $8 million. $8 million. It's a little over $8 million, I guess. I don't think that's going to be as big an issue as we may think it will be in terms of signing Dallas Goedert. I think that'll all play itself out, and it'll be fine. That's just my feeling. They find a way when they want a player, and if a player wants to sign, he finds a way to do it as well.
All right, Howard, I want to tap into your sources again. And they were very good to you yesterday with the Ertz's on the premises information. Last week, Charles Robinson, NFL Network, came out and said, some Eagle player telling me they're not sure about Nick Sirianni. It spurred Lane Johnson to step up and go, yeah, how about you name names if you're going to go down there and throw the coach under the bus? I think the coach has done a great job with it. So this is not the first team that this has ever happened to. Varying sides of reports as to how the coach is doing and what the players actually think about him. You got damn good sources inside that room. What is the finger on the pulse emotion right now for Nick Sirianni in the very early stage of his coaching career here in Philly?
Well, I can't say it's 100%, but the players have really embraced Nick Sirianni, his enthusiasm, and I love Doug Peterson, and I think he did a great job. I mean, he won him a Super Bowl. You can say what you want, but they love his enthusiasm. Change in sports is important in the pursuit of success, and it just creates a new energy. When Jalen Hurts came in, Did Jalen Hurts have a good 4 games? Maybe 1.5 games were good, but it created an energy, and everybody had excitement about that because it was something new and something fresh. Is there somebody in there that's not quite on board with Nick Sirianni or questions that? Yeah, I mean, does everybody love Tom Brady? Probably not, regardless of where he's been. Does everybody love Aaron Rodgers? Probably not. We're talking about 2 great quarterbacks. So I don't even worry about that. I believe Michael Robinson was accurate. As a reporter, you can't name sources, otherwise you'll never get the information. But you better be accurate, because eventually you'll wear out your welcome with other people if they're not right. Is there somebody in there? Yeah, I mean, who does Michael Robinson know? I think there's only one player from Penn State.
Yeah, you can't, players talk to each other. I don't want to throw Miles under the bus, but you're right, Howard.
No, and I'm not going to. No, I don't want to do it either, and it's not fair. But who is he talking to? Who does he really know?
Yeah.
And Miles could say, hey, there's a couple of guys in here that don't, and maybe not Miles. There's a couple of guys in here that are not quite on board. Hey, they're Penn State guys. They talk to each other. Yeah. I'm okay with that. And I don't really care what Michael Robinson said, unless it's the whole team. But I think there's an energy in there. Knowing what people have said about Nick Sirianni, his energy is great. Games are different, but his energy is great. He's got enthusiasm. He obviously knows offense. His decisions during the game, and I made a comment to Nick Sirianni. I said, you're going to win a game this year, and there's going to be some questionable play calls or a questionable decision, and you're going to get, in their own way, reporters in their questions to criticize what you did. So he said, that's what I signed up for. I said, okay, then that's fine. But so he's ready for that. And he knows if he doesn't win in a couple of years, he may not be here after a couple of years. That's just the way it is in the NFL anymore. You move on a lot of times from coaches. They don't even care what they pay these guys anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I believe most of the players, is it 100%? No. Is it 97%, 95%? Yes, I believe that. And I think we can get carried away with something. But Lane Johnson, he wants to defend his head coach, and that's fine. The one thing I hope for Lane is he stays healthy, along with Brooks and along with Kelsey. And if that happens, they could have a good team if that offensive line stays healthy. So with all that said, I'm fine with Nick Sirianni, and we'll see. You judge him during the games more than anything else, and how the players respond.
Yeah.
And right now, most of them are. Yeah.
To me, Howard, it's even simpler than that. You can line up the next 90 people you see. They're not going to agree on everything. The next 90 people I meet, I guarantee one of them's not going to like me. There's going to be a lot more. That's just life. To me, it's common sense. But I do you brought up the point, Nick's going to get tough questions, and there's no question, even after wins, from reporters. Well, guess what? You might get questions from Jeffrey Lurie. You had that McClain report about the Eagles upsetting Green Bay, and Jeffrey wasn't happy because they didn't throw the ball enough. So to me, that's more important. Is Nick Sirianni going to upset the Kansas City Chiefs? And is Jeffrey Lurie going to say, oh, you didn't win the right way? And the bigger question is Jeffrey Lurie going to micromanage Nick Sirianni?
He'll probably have his opinions. I think the coach still has to make his decisions. And that's why I think Doug Peterson left. He got tired of not being able to make all his decisions. He fired himself, and he was okay with that. And he'll coach somewhere, probably as an assistant before he's a head coach again next year. I talked to Doug a few weeks ago at Ron Jaworski's golf tournament. Sit out this year. He's still getting paid. And then we'll see what happens. But I don't think Nick Sirianni will let Jeffrey completely is probably the wrong word. That's probably stating it wrong. I think right now he'll let Nick Sirianni coach his team. He's not going to coach. I think we kind of overstate his involvement. He has opinions. He's the owner. The owner of any company has opinions. Football is more public, obviously. But I think Nick Sirianni is going to do his first year what he's going to do. And he's probably gotten some advice from Frank Reich, who's been here through some of that. So yeah, I think he'll be fine with that. I'm just, first of all, I don't think they're going to upset Kansas City. I'm just going to.
I know they're not going to upset Kansas.
I
was just throwing it out there in the fact that you got to be happy.
I think they're going to upset. I think they're going to upset Tampa Thursday night. Well, short week on the road after 2 emotional games for Tampa. I've looked at that schedule, so I'm just throwing that out there. They're going to upset Tampa.
Yeah. My larger point is if you win a game like that, by hook or by crook, no matter how you win it, you should be happy. My larger point would be, is Jeffrey going to be happy, or does Nick Sirianni have to win a certain way, which at the end of the day is a difficult position to be in as a head coach. And I think that wore on Doug Peterson at the time. Doug was thrilled to upset Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And then after the game, he's getting questions on how you win the game. It's strange. I will say that.
Yeah, well, sports is a funny thing, especially with owners, with general managers, with sometimes your own people. If you didn't throw the ball enough, was the quarterback happy with that? But you got to let, and when they say, we don't always believe, let the past be the past. That was last week when Belichick abuses that ability to say, well, I'm not, we're talking about this team, not about that team. So sometimes you have to do that. And, in his first year, it's a love story. So in his first year, it'll be fine. Even if Jeffrey Lurie says, you know what, why didn't you do this? Knowing why he asked the question. Hey, that's what a head coach has got to deal with. He's still going to get his money. And he's going to try to win games.
That's true.
And you know what? When they get to Sean Watson, then he'll have a better chance to win games after that.
Yeah, that's where we go.
Before we get to Deshaun Watson and look forward at the quarterback position, I want to just take one quick step back with Carson Wentz. Howard, you've been doing this a long time. You know that nothing happens in a vacuum, that what Carson Wentz does or doesn't do in Indianapolis doesn't mean he would have done the exact same thing here in Philadelphia. But you talk to enough Eagle fans. I talk to enough Eagle fans. There are a whole bunch of people who are going to draw that conclusion. If Carson Wentz goes to Indy and he's great, oh, shoot, he could have been great here. If Carson Wentz goes to Indy and stinks, oh, we made a great move by getting rid of Carson Wentz. And neither one of those things is 100% for sure. However, we will watch Carson Wentz and we will draw some conclusions. How do you think he's going to do out there under Frank Reich?
I think he's going to have a good year. He's got better people around him. He's got a better offensive line from what the Eagles' offensive line was last year. He's got to do some things better himself. There's no question that he's got to be better. But again, change for him. I didn't like the way, I think people went overboard in the criticisms of Carson Wentz, and players didn't like him, and all these things that came out. I think that was overstated. Not everybody likes everybody, and he didn't handle the adversity well, and that was disappointing. But he's got a better team around him, starting with the offensive line, and I think he's going to have a good year. Now, I agree. That doesn't mean he would have had that year here with the Philadelphia Eagles. It all goes back to the drafting of Jalen Ertz, which I think it really screwed him up. But again, you have to overcome. That's what sports is, especially in football. There's always somebody trying to take your job. And the Eagles kind of forced that a little bit more than they probably should have with the selection of Jalen Ertz. Jalen Ertz is a good quarterback down the line. Everybody's going to be happy about it. If he's not, you're going to look back and say, if they didn't draft Jalen Ertz, could Carson Wentz still have been the guy and been good at that position? So, but I think he's going to do I think he's going to do well in Indianapolis. They have a really tough schedule in a really tough division. But I still think he's going to have, obviously, it's going to be a better year, and I think he's going to have a good year. And as long as he plays 70% of the snaps, the Eagles get another first round. So anybody that's rooting against Carson Wentz is stupid. Only because it only helps these Eagles if he plays better because he's in there for at least 70% for the season. So yeah, I think he's going to be fine.
All right, Howard, you opened the door with Deshaun Watson. So I want to tackle this from two angles. One with Jalen Hurts, because I've said this pretty consistently. You mentioned the 3 first-round picks, how he has built up quite the insurance policy, so to speak. They're going to have cap room. They can do whatever they want after this season. Presumably, Deshaun Watson is going to play again. The question is when. If there is going to be a suspension, how long? There's too much uncertainty right now, but it won't die. And we know Howie Roseman, and we know he calls on everybody and he does his due diligence. And we know Jeffrey Lurie has proven in the past an owner willing to give people second chances. So, number one, can Jalen Hurts do anything in 2021 to be the long-term answer for the Philadelphia Eagles? Or is this truly a transition and the Eagles are going to move toward a Deshaun Watson or a rookie top 10 pick in next year's draft at the quarterback position?
Well, number one, to deal with Jalen Hurts, I'm not sure, and I don't think they're sure. Obviously, they got the picks. They have the ability to use those picks to either trade up or trade. They're in good position if Houston decides to trade Deshaun Watson. There's other teams, obviously, that want him. Are they in as good a position as the Eagles? I don't think so. But Jalen Hurts, first and before everything else, has got to prove he's not just a running quarterback. I know the offenses have changed, but I think mobile quarterbacks are mobile to buy time to throw the football. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's a running quarterback. No, he's really not. He only runs, I think his average last year was 3.5 times a game. He only ran the ball an average of 3.5 times a game. No, he buys himself time to get to an open receiver. So I think that's what Jalen Hurts has got to do. He's got to, after his primary receiver, he's got to be able to make his progressions and read down the line and not just run if the first option is not there. So he's got to be better. I mean, Chris Sims, I had Chris Sims on my radio show, and I put it on a podcast. He didn't put him in his top 40 projected for 2021 quarterbacks. And he said he's seen throws that a senior high school quarterback makes that Jalen Hurts didn't make last year. That's damning. You can say what you want about Chris Sims. He wasn't a good quarterback in the NFL, but I think he's sharp. I think he does his homework. He watches a lot of tape, and he sees things. And he mentioned he throws a lot with his arm and not his body, and that creates inaccurate throws. I know people say, his completion percentage wasn't good because he throws the ball away. Well, every quarterback throws the ball away when there's nothing there. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. But he's obviously watched enough tape to see why his throws in a lot of cases were inaccurate, and he felt that he really should have thrown. There would have been more interceptions if defenders had just caught the football. Jalen Hurts has got to get better. And if he gets better, then things will be better for the Eagles. Now, it depends when all this Deshaun Watson stuff goes down. I would think there's no way he's not getting suspended. So will a team make the trade before they announce that or after they announce that? And will teams take a chance on that? Whoever gets him, he's not playing the whole season. Whether it's civil suits, it doesn't matter. The NFL, if you've committed the crime, it's not a crime. Well, it is a crime. If you've committed what they say you've done, regardless of whether you're guilty in a court of law, regardless of whether you make a settlement or don't make a settlement, you're going to get suspended. And I think everybody recognizes that. But before everything else, Jalen Hurts has got to be better.
Hey, Howard, a real quick follow-up because of what you just said. To me, the biggest thing is this is a Jeffrey Lurie decision. He's got to make that decision. Will he bring Deshaun Watson into this organization when everything is cleared up to a certain degree? Because there are still going to be a lot of people upset because those are serious allegations. Where are you on that part of it? Do you think Jeffrey Lurie would default to giving this guy a second chance, as he's done in the past pretty consistently?
My answer is yes. I think he will give him a second chance because in the NFL, Andy Reid was so proper in doing things. He brought Michael Vick in to give him a second chance, and Michael Vick really cleaned up his act. Michael Vick is a good person now. What he did is just horrific, what he did. And we will never completely get over that. But he's turned into a pretty good guy. But Andy Reid now has guys on his team. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it almost doesn't matter. If a guy can play, a guy can play. Do I agree with that? No, not necessarily. Do people agree with that? But I saw Michael Vick turn it around. I don't know if all the people on the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's their problem. I mean, the wide receiver, you got to be kidding me. I mean, we know he did what he was accused of, but he can play. If it's a guy that's, the 44th man on a roster, he's not there. But when a guy can play, he's there. And that's, unfortunately, what professional sports has turned into, not just the NFL. And you suffer a suspension and you lose some money. So the interesting part is, will Deshaun Watson report to camp next week? If he doesn't want to lose $50,000 a day, he'll report to camp. He's already going to lose money. I think he'll be there with the understanding, I'm going to be here, but you guys got to try to move me and then go from there. I don't like when players tell teams, Aaron Rodgers, just shut up. Aaron, you want to get back $30 million bonus? Yeah, give back $30 million and get traded. Go ahead. Let's see you pony up that money. And I like Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a great quarterback and a great guy too. But this is nonsense.
I think the commissioner will be heard from next week when Texans camp comes open and they have to make a decision whether Deshaun's going to show or not. Speaking of Deshaun, it was 12 years ago, Howard, when Deshaun Watson set the Eagles rookie receiving record at 912 yards. So the over-under is 912 and a half. Is Devonta Smith going to own that record by the time the Eagles season, with one extra game, remember, included 17 this year, 912 yards? Will he reset the Eagles rookie wide receiver record?
Well, that's a really tough question, and I'm going to say no. And the only reason I'm going to say no is because there's been so much attention given to Devonta Smith. And I would think they're both just as fast as each other, Jackson and Smith. But there's going to be so much attention. I wouldn't be surprised if teams double him and say, go throw to Rager, throw to Ward, throw to Dallas Goedert. We're not going to let you beat us with Devonta Smith. And I think because of that, I think the Eagles will spread it around a little bit more than they did when Deshaun Jackson was here. And that's the only reason, even with the 17th game. So I think for a few years he's going to stay healthy. Boy, he's little. My God, he's tall.
He is. Those legs, man. Woo.
Toothpicks. They're like toothpicks.
And he won a Heisman Trophy on those toothpicks. So hopefully those toothpicks play as well here in Philadelphia as they did down in Alabama. Howard, you hung with us for an entire half an hour plus. We can't thank you enough. Great job breaking the story yesterday. Thanks for coming on Birds 365.
All right, anytime. You guys have a great day, and I will continue my streak of never having a bad day.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you Wednesday, King. Get ready for some grass time.
He is the king, Howard Eskin, here with his son. Here with us on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald coming back. We got plenty more to do. Trey Wingo, you remember him from ESPN. Now he's working for the Pro Football Network, has his own YouTube channel. Trey Wingo's going to join us in hour number 2. We'll come back, talk more Birds here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.